Good morning, guys. So, I wasn't going to record this, but I am fulfilling a lifelong dream here, and I am going to Sema in Las Vegas. So, it's a few days early. I'm catching a train to head up to Chicago to catch a flight. Um, my train was supposed to leave at a little before 5:30 this morning. It is now 6:30 and the train is still not here. So I took that time to go to a diner up the street, filled my belly, and hopefully the train comes soon. Probably won't have a whole lot of footage here. I had zero intentions on recording any of this trip, but since I've got some free time, I figured it's better to record the footage and not use it than to decide I want a video and not have footage. So I figured not everybody knows what Sema actually is. So, based off of what Sema calls themselves here, the Sema show is the premier trade show geared to help small businesses thrive and succeed. The trade-only event enables automotive specialty equipment manufacturers to display alongside automotive manufacturers to debut new, innovative products and connect with industry buyers from all over the world. So, whereas that might not necessarily pertain to me, I was going more as a tourist, which generally you can't just get tickets to Sema. You can't get online and buy tickets. You have to prove via the tax ID license number, and in my case, I was able to get some pay stubs that made it possible. You have to be a part of the trade to even be able to go to the Sema show, so it's pretty exciting to get to go. Alright guys, we have just left Union Station. We are in Chicago. So I'm just going to do some sightseeing for now. The ultimate plan is to end up at the Museum of Science and Industry. So I'm going to do a little exploring on my own here. And then we'll call an Uber, I assume. Maybe get some food. And I'll catch you up once we get there. So the biggest reason that I wanted to go to the Sema show, I spend a lot of time, as I'm assuming you do watching this video, on YouTube. A lot of these manufacturers and vendors will actually contact YouTubers and sponsor builds, and there was probably 24 different cars at the show that I got to see in person, that I have actually watched the whole process of these guys building these cars from scratch and doing their modifications. It's just a really super exciting thing that I'm really thankful that I got to go and see. So we started out in Chicago. As you can see with the traffic, it wouldn't be Chicago without it. I would have liked to have done a lot more recording in the museum, but I didn't think that it was allowed, so I figured it was best not to chance it. I ended up staying with a friend of mine in Chicago. I'm about 4 hours south of Chicago, so a bit of a journey. I took the train from my town to Chicago and met up with my buddy. We did some stuff around his neck of the woods, checked out some shops, had some food and whatnot, hung out around Chicago for a day or two, and then we were on our plane heading out. Flying into Las Vegas is one of my favorite feelings. I've been to Vegas probably a handful of times. Normally it's just for fun. A group of us will go and do the typical gambling and sightseeing and all of that. But this year, this is what we're here for. We were there for the Sema Show 2022. As you can see, the entire convention center is just packed. The parking lots, they have vendors outside. You can see everything from semi-trucks to tents. They have a racing booth set up, the whole 9 yards. So this is just going to be a sort of a showcase of some of the cars that I saw that I really liked. This is Amelia Hartford's C8 Corvette. Was the fastest C8 Corvette. First one, I think, to install twin turbos. This is a custom car built by Chris at B is for Build. He based it off of a lot of Corvette parts, and he just wanted to build an apocalyptic Formula One car that he could drive on the streets. This car, I don't know anything about it. The wrap was just really cool. You can see here is the RTR Formula Drift racing team. Black cars, Von Gittin. The yellow car is Chelsea Denofa. And then the last yellow car is Adam LZ in their RTR Mustangs. I didn't get to see those guys take the track, but if I go back next year, we'll totally be making that a priority. This here is Brad DeBerti's truck. It's actually a tandem rear axle truck, so 4-wheel drive in the rear. He rips burnouts and has a lot of fun with this truck. Another really cool build that was really neat to see in person. This here is Dustin Williams. He bought is actually the car from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. He got super lucky and bought it directly from the people who made the car, so that's pretty cool. On the flip side, we have the Throttle channel. They have been doing a lot of Fast and Furious builds themselves, but with a modern twist. You can see plenty of remnants here on Paul Walker's Toyota, but definitely they put their own flair to it. I think at this point they're pushing over 1,000 horsepower. Really cool build to see somebody get carried away and, you know, sky's the limit sort of deal. This is just a really clean BMW that I saw. At first I thought it was one of the Throttle team's personal cars. It ended up not being, but it was just a really sharp, clean car. Here's another one of the Throttle cars. This is actually Nissan Z that they have taken all of the drive components from a Tesla. You can see the battery is in the front, engine's in the rear. They say it's a quick car, but it looks really cool. So this is cool. This is Travis Pastrana's Subaru that they built to do the Gymkhana series with Hoonigan. Super wild video if you haven't seen it. They actually jump a helicopter with this car on a drawbridge. Really cool. This is an AMG Mercedes. Again, just a cool car. Neat wrap. Really liked it. These guys are actually the guys that built the Batmobile for that particular movie. Was really cool to see in person. A lot of things that you wouldn't have seen in the movie. Really neat. This car, I don't even know what it is. Just a really clean booth they were detailing. So this car is actually really cool. It's a custom built Ferrari, and he actually swapped a Honda engine into the back of it. Ditched the Ferrari engine, old V8, underpowered, and went with the Honda engine because he could turbocharge it, get the power he wanted, and it was lightweight. Here we have Whistling Diesel's General Lee. They actually swapped a twin-turbo LS into it, and I'm pretty sure he said that it was pushing 1,600 horsepower, which is insane. In a true Whistling Diesel fashion, smashed up windshield. This truck was one of the coolest trucks I've ever seen in my life. Insane attention to detail. Not sure who made it or anything about it, but I loved it. So this is another B is for build car. It started out as a 67 Mustang, I believe, and he based it off of a rendering. It used to be a mid-engine car from the Need for Speed movie, dressed as a Bugatti. They chopped it up, put this body around it, so it's a mid-engine LS Ford Mustang. Pretty crazy. This is Ken Block's Gymkhana Mustang. It's an all-wheel drive, turbocharged powerhouse of a machine. Again, if you check out Hoonigan's channel and the Gymkhana series, those videos are nuts. They put so much time and money into them. I was super lucky to get to see that. They also had the new Hoonicorn there, which is this Porsche. They haven't released a video as of to date, but that thing's going to be super cool to see them running around. I can't wait to see that. This particular car doesn't look all that flashy like the other cars are, but this is the next few cars actually are TJ Hunt. He built a company making wide bodies for these particular cars. They've got the Subaru BRZ, and here's the brand new Nissan Z. So cool to see him do his own touches to it. Here's his pride and joy, an RX-7 with a Veilside wide body kit. Wild build. He's got the series on his channel. definitely check it out. Was a super clean car, and I was so blown away by it. This truck had the wildest paint job I've ever seen in my life. So much metal flakes, so much pinstriping, custom airbrushing. I don't know anything about the truck, but I bet I spent a solid 20 minutes just discovering new parts of this build. It's flashy. It's insanely cool. I just really liked it. Again, this car is a Street Hunter car, and you'll see that I kind of just like cars. So again, this car, not a clue who made it or what parts are on it. I just thought it looked super cool. So at this point, we had wrapped up our first day checking out the show, grabbed us a bite to eat. This is at the Hash House A Go-Go. It's a Las Vegas must. Anytime we're in Las Vegas, we go there, get the chicken and waffles. You can see it's a ton of food. It kicked my behind, but I still had room for a crepe and some frozen yogurt. The next clip, we went and watched the Jabberwockies, which was a show at the MGM Grand. They're a hip-hop dance crew. Definitely some really cool moves. I could teach them a thing or two. Check them out. They're pretty cool. After we checked out the show, we called it a night. The next day, we got right back at it, doing a little bit of sightseeing, and then we hit the outside section of the event. We got to see the Optimus Series Autocross racing. This is something that I've only gotten to do once before in my cars, and it's definitely something I want to do again. As you can see, it's essentially a racetrack set up with orange cones, so when you mess up, there's a lot less to tear up. Got to see these guys after they had done their laps. You can see the guy in the blue truck here has a little fun with it. He sees a moron with a camera and is like, I bet he's not paying attention, but ended up making for a pretty cool shot, I thought. This was one of the coolest parts of the trip. Completely unrelated to the whole convention. This is a place called Meow Wolf. It's just a really neat interactive museum with all kinds of light displays, and it actually starts out, you walk in and it looks like a regular grocery store. The more you look into things, the more weird it gets, and eventually there are a couple of passageways that will take you to the back where this whole display is. I highly recommend it. It was a really cool and different experience. When you're in Las Vegas, you've always got to check out New York. Fortunately for us, in New York, there is also candy. There is a Hershey store, and you can bet your booty that my fat behind was all about that candy. Had to go and check that out. I could have had so much more footage for this whole trip. A lot of it probably would have been pretty boring. Not all of you guys went to see all of the car content. There was a whole parade. All of the vehicles that were in the show on the last day do a parade showing everything off. I think I've got 3 hours worth of footage of that. Decided not to put it in just because nobody wants to sit there and watch all of that. But it was a really, really cool trip. I'm so thankful we got to go. Whether or not I go every year, I'm gonna say I don't, simply because it's an expensive week-long vacation. But
I will say, coming home here was the most stressful and ridiculous traveling experience I think I've ever had in my life. So, footage kind of ends pretty abruptly here. I'll explain more here in a second. Let's get to it. Our trip home was a fiasco. We ended up, by the time we left our Airbnb in Las Vegas at around 4:30 in the morning Vegas time. Got to the airport, on the plane, everything's great. Take off, start getting into Chicago, and there was a lot of turbulence. More turbulence than I've felt in a plane before. Honestly, a little freaked out. I think 3 times we tried to land. It was just way too windy. I think they said they were having gusts in the 60 mile an hour range. So we got rerouted, and the closest place they could go was Milwaukee. So we ended up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, trying to get home. This would have been, I think our arrival was 12 noon my time, which is Central Time, and we didn't land in Milwaukee until probably 1:30. And once we were there for I think an hour and a half. We weren't allowed to get off the plane. If we left the plane, we were not permitted re-entry. So here we are, just stuck sitting on a plane until they think we'll be able to land. We had to fuel up. It was annoying, but we did make it. We got back, landed in Chicago. However, it doesn't end there. Or I had to take a train from Chicago back home. I had scheduled the train for 4 p.m. I figured 4 hours was plenty of time to get home, head back to my buddy's place, gather up the rest of my things, and make it to the train. Boy, was I wrong. By the time we had got to the car, my train was supposed to depart at 4:05 p.m. and we got into the car at, I believe, 3:26. And the internet said that it was a 25-minute drive from the airport to the train station. We had no time to spare. My buddy tried his as he could have. His little RAV4 did not have what it took to get us there. By the time I got into Union Station, found the boarding area, I was asked by one of the attendees if I needed assistance. I said I need to get on the 4:05 train out of Chicago back home. At that point, it was 4:02. I made it! I was so excited. Against all odds, we made it. Except we didn't. 4:03 on the 4:05 departure. Apparently, they stopped boarding the last 10 minutes of that. So we were stuck at Union Station for 4 hours waiting on the next train to depart. Mind you, I've already been up since 5 o'clock in the morning. And there's just one thing after another. So of course, we're stuck in Union Station. Lots of loudness, kids running around, nothing to do. But I did finally make it. I think by the time that I got my ride from the train station, which we arrived, I think, after an hour delay, because before we ever left the station, a passenger had medical needs. That set us back approximately 45 minutes. And then about halfway through the trip, we hit a station and were informed that we were going to have to wait 20 minutes for the tracks to clear. So that was just, it was awful. I was traveling from 5 a.m. and finally made it home at 2:30 a.m. the next day. Fortunately, I had a day to recover before I had to go to work. But, guys, that trip was awesome. Sema is one of those bucket list items for me. I'm glad that I got to see it. The show was great. May have overhyped it a little bit. It's definitely cool. I'll definitely go back. Whether or not it's a yearly thing, it's not going to be a yearly thing. Indianapolis, Indiana is just a little bit away from me. They do the PRI show, which is a pretty similar show. It's more racing based, smaller scale, but still a pretty big show. I'm really glad I got to meet some of the people that I watch on YouTube, some of the industry leaders. Definitely a cool experience. I will be back. But like I said, I hadn't intended on recording this. I had figured nobody cared, nobody wanted to see it. Everybody has videos about Sema and Vegas and all of that, so I decided that I took enough video that we could scrounge together a video. I'm still trying to get my bearings on this whole YouTube thing. You guys tell me if I'm doing any good or if I should just stay off the camera, don't do voiceovers. I don't know, we're gonna try it all. And if I fail, I fail. I can say I tried. That's it for this one. This probably won't be a very typical style of video. Normally it's gonna be car related. It's gonna be working on the car, taking the car somewhere, doing things. But this is a once in a lifetime experience, and even if nobody's still watching at this point, I'll have this memory years from now. When I get old, I can go back and reminisce on this and have, a little piece of it that I brought back with me. So that's it for this one. I'm going to try to get videos out a little more often. However, in central Illinois right now, we're sitting, we have a weather advisory for the next week with wind chills in the -30 range. My shop isn't heated, it isn't insulated, and I live in the middle of a wind farm. Or a wind tunnel, I guess. That's going to be that for this one. If you happen to stay this long, just put something in the comments. I doubt anybody's made it this far, but till next time, I'll see you.